anyway, all good.
Okay, kapai. Everyone,
Okay.
look, I'm joined today by the amazing Tanea Heke, Director of Toi Whakaari, the New Zealand Drama School. I'm so happy to have you on today. How are you?
Oh, tēnā koe, Eru. I'm fine, thank you. It's such a joy. It's a joy to come on. Thank you so much for asking me.
Oh,
And it's so lovely to see you and to think about all those wonderful memories from back in the day, back in 96
7?
and 97, crikes.
Long
That
time
ages
ago.
us. So that must make you about 21 and me about 23, dear.
Yeah, that sounds right. That
Hey,
sounds
hey.
right. Hey, so look, I asked you to talk today because to me, your story is amazing. You were this young Māori woman who showed up at the drama school who was pretty set and staunch in her ways, and has turned out from gone from student to now the boss of the school. And I think that's just an amazing journey, along with all the amazing stuff, movies we've seen you in, and all the stuff you've done on stage and things like that. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Oh, it's a well, you know, like I don't want to be that kumara, but I'll tell the story because, you know, if it's a story that some other some a rangatahi, we won't say some other because they'd be stretching it now, but a rangatahi might be thinking about, you know, that for me, I was a wee bit older when I came to drama school, as you know, and as I see them here, they're very young now. You know, a lot of them are straight from kura, which
Wow.
I go, really? But back in the day, it was you had to be over 20. And somehow I managed to stretch that even a little bit further because I arrived just after my second son had been born. I think he was about maybe 3 or 4 when I got there. So I think it's lovely that you called me about being a young. One thing I was that, you know, that one. There's always that one, isn't there? And
Yes.
you know, that one that go, no, we won't be doing that. Oh, look, you lovely, you wahine, would you mind doing? No, we won't be doing that. Thank you. No, we won't. If we do the karanga, it'll be because we're choosing to do that, not because you're telling us to. You know,
Yes.
that was us.
That was
Especially
exactly that year, I have to say.
Oh, we were that in a different format. We might be able to call us what we were as a lawfu. But given that we're, you know, that we'll be broadcasting to, and there'll be a lot of young ears listening to this, I think perhaps, so that we'll just describe it as that we were, I'll go, youthful and enthusiastic. But honestly, if there was a moment, and I would never say this for our young ones now, if there was a moment that the word no was used, we used it 15 times every time. No, we won't do that, but just generally. And you know, yeah, I think we were always regarded as that year group. And still all these years later, we were a tight little bunch, but I suspect that actually happened all the way at Toi Whakaari era, as you know.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
long were you there, my darling?
How long was I there?
Yeah.
I was there about 3.5 years, probably.
See, the majority of us only ever got to be there for 2 years, but you
Yeah.
must have been a very, very bad student, right?
Well, just luckily I wasn't a student, probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember if it hadn't been for you at times, we wouldn't have got through. But we had a great year. When I think of, you know, Waimahi Hoteri and Annette Crawford Williams, that was our little posse of, but we called ourselves the Coven in those times. And there were a number of others that were included, and we're still maybe not as close, but we all traveled together. Mitch, Taffy, Thomas, you know.
Right. Yeah.
This is a lovely story too, Eru. As you know, we were that particular ropu, and we were all, and I remember our tuakana always used to look at us going, geez, you fellas, could you just not ease up just a little bit and stop being such stirrers? But we never did. And so for myself and Mitch, for instance, we're both here at Toi Whakaari. We both come back, me in the role of tūmoake, and him is actually in the acting department, head of acting at the moment.
Very cool.
And there is something ironic about the both of us, who were amongst the naughtiest, I have to say, about one running the school and one running the department, that we both were terrorized when we were here. However, that just, again, let that be encouragement for others. If you feel that there is ever any barriers, you just boot those down, darling, and in you come. If you never feel that you're invited, never wait to be invited, in you come. But it always helps if you have some mates. So yes, over those years from 97 to, and I came back here to school in 2019, crikey dick. It was, and I was very lucky too, because in the time in between, I had been working a lot with our darling Nancy Brunning, who many of you will know. Again, another graduate of our school. We created our own company. And when this vacancy came up at school, I said to her I was going to go and try for it. And look, she was amazing. She supported me all the way through my first year. As you might recall, she passed away in November of that year. The reason I'm looking up and not looking at you is because she's sitting there just above here on the shelf. And I can often hear her dulcet tones telling me off to, now, Tanea, are you really going to do that? Yep. But it's great because it's like having a nan. Like I've got nannies on this side, but I've got the nan, Nancy, up there, often giving me advice. In fact,
we call her that, right? She was nan to everybody.
Right, to Nan, she was, for someone so much younger than me.
I had to interrupt you here, but when you talk about Nancy, I have to talk about her too, because it was through her that I did my one and only professional acting job.
Is that right?
And we did the 1996 Te Reo Māori season for Takirua. She came and saw me. So I think she was like 8.5 months pregnant at the time with her baby. Born. Yeah, and she sat in my office and said, look, bro, we need someone who can speak Māori. Would you please come and do this play? And I went, oh, look, it's not really me. I don't really want to. The tear starts coming from her eyes. And I went, oh, I can't let this pregnant Māori woman here be crying in front of me. All right, I'll do it. As soon as I said that, she smiled and she, thanks, bro, cool, we'll see you at rehearsal. And I thought, hang on, done it to me. But she was great. And, I owe it to her for helping me be a better me. And so I always say to Nancy.
Actually, you and I are not the only ones in that queue. There's a long queue. Absolutely. Of wahine and tane Māori who were directly supported by our mate. And any success that I've had in the industry, I think a lot of it has to do with our friend, because she was incredibly supportive. For someone that was so poto, she and scary when it turned, there's this little tani whakaari, but just such an amazing person, held such mana. And so I think we, and those of us that worked and knew Nancy well, were very lucky to be touched by really an angel, to use that expression, because she has helped many. And so the company that we created, which was Halfway Productions, continues. Is a bit harder though, with her being on annual leave, or permanent annual leave now, because I just keep on thinking, gee, who does the bloody taxes? Oh, okay. But and the work, because she had, which again has helped me, is always had fire in her eyes and in her heart, because it's about telling our stories. And that's another sadness for me, that she's passed without some of our, some of our younger generation, or our rangatahi understanding. But there are a lot like that. Tungia Baker and Kiri Ka and all of those that literally put their career on the line to ensure that the rest of us could, have a sustainable and a long career. She did some of those fights, those big scrappy fights about ensuring that our stories were told. So, but the wonderful thing is that she will always be known. And I think when I go down to visit at Takirua, speaking of that company, her photo isn't there yet, but it will be. But she will always be remembered as a rangatira with all of those other stars. That the reason that we are here today is because of people like Nancy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit of some of the highlights of your career.
Oh, it's not that recent now, but I'm still very grateful for the opportunity of getting to be in Cousins by Patricia, by Fire Patricia, because I had read the book. You know, it's one thing to read the book. It's another thing entirely to stand into the character. And that character of Mata, she had been, as you know, or might be aware, she had been separated from her whānau from when she was quite a young baba, or hard to tell how old. But that separation had really a huge impact on this child, and helped shape and influence the woman she became. And the beauty of this fantastic vision that the women Briar and Ainsley had when they turned it from a book to a movie is that they followed the different generations. And I was lucky enough to follow these two younger wahine, the baby in particular. I'm going to tell you this story, right? Cool. So of course, I don't know if you got to see the movie, but Mata was fairly a pody, but in herself she was as strong as anything, but a fairly pody looking auntie. You know, she had been living on the streets for some time, bless you. So as usual, and this is me just moaning now, I was dressed up in, the fabulous gears, darling, and fabulous hair and fabulous makeup. I would sit in the makeup chair and the aunties would say to me, "No, dear, you don't need makeup. We're just going to, we're just going to etch in those lines," which they didn't have to do, and we're just going to frizz up in here. And I said, "Please give me something." They go, "Oh, well, mascara," and then they'd push me off. Then I'd go to wardrobe, of course, and all my nice clothes came off, and there's this lovely, horrible old green, these bloody hackery old clothes, disgusting, Anyway, so I looked like the bag lady. It's all good. It's all in character. It all makes sense. Anyway, there was no time really that this Mata would ever interact with the young Mata, but it happened to be that we were all filming in Rotorua, obviously different segments. And we were in our caravan. I'd like to tell you it's like you see in the movies in Hollywood, but it was literally a caravan, darling, on the back of a trailer. Anyway, the three wee ones who played the cousins in the younger age, they all came into the caravan with their minder, and the minder says, "Oh, look, it's Mata." And the little girl played that role. She went, No, I'm Mata. And she goes, No, that's the old Mata. And she just looked at me and went, "Ugh." Like, "Ugh." And her and her mates all started laughing because, of course, they had no comprehension at all. They thought the movie was all about them, bless.
Of course.
And I loved it because I just kept on thinking there was me and Rachel. I think we were doing it, and I just kept on thinking, oh, there is nothing more grounding than have those young ones go, "I don't even know who was that." There's of no consequence here.
Yep.
Oh, I loved it. I came across them too at the premiere and went over to say hello, and they still did the same thing. They went, I loved it. Yep. It was great. It's a beautiful story, darling. And
it really is.
It is, and it's such a pleasure too, because there are components about that story of Mata that is my story as well. So we were lucky enough to take the film home before it was released generally to the public. And I remember my sister standing to speak on our marae, just sort of saying that ahakoa he kiriata, engari, that these components of Mata's story that was part of our whānau story as well. Yeah.
I think that's what made it great, because almost all Māori people can tell something similar. That separation. And I think that's what really hit home for me in that movie. I loved it. It was really cool to see both you and Waimea as well. And, that's
great role in there.
Yeah, she had what seemed like a perfect role for her.
Hey, for us, it's just like not a great stretch, darling, because she is that auntie, as you know.
Absolutely.
She is that beautiful auntie.
Yeah.
My other favourite. Yeah, sorry.
No, carry on. I don't want to.
No, my other favourite film, it's not got me in it, was actually Finna. I saw that on the way home. I've just been away and I saw it on the way home. Oh my goodness, what an awesome story. Look at all the stories we're telling, and look at all, back in the day, if you tried to show a New Zealand movie, no one would go, they'd all be embarrassed. No, I don't do that rubbish. I want to watch the latest Hollywood blockbuster. Nowadays, our people all are there, all keen to see themselves on the screen.
It's lovely, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. I remember sort of the early movies like Ngāti and Mauri, and those early movies were really cool too. I remember, and I think that was sort of the beginning And
yes, you're right. You know,
we've
if
come
it
so
hadn't
far
been
though
for
now.
the rest of the movies would be followed. But Barry Barclay and all of them, we have a lot. We've got a lot to mihi to them. All the hard work, Mirata, all of the hard work was done by them.
Oh, absolutely. So tell us what's going on at Toi Whakaari at the moment. How's things going?
Well, you know, it's that you'll probably remember this. It's basically working up to graduation at the moment. So there's also, I think, mayhem is probably the polite way of putting it. So we've got a whole lot of quite nervous tauira at the moment, you know, just trying to remember whether they finished off all their work and what have you. But that's what's going on. We're actually about to start. This didn't happen when you and I were there. They didn't do that. We're about to start the solo season.
Yes.
That happened before us and after us, but apparently not during our time. So they were about to start the solos. That's the first year. So that will be the last. That'll be the last production of the year. We've also got. You and I will have called it Recall Weekend coming up this weekend, but it's called Applicants Weekend. So these are all the prospective students for next year coming in.
Right.
And having interviews with the different departments. Again, way bit different from the time that you and I were at Toi Whakaari. In those times, there was technical production and there was acting. Well, now we have 5 different departments within our kura. Cool. There's acting, of course, which has been around for 50 plus years. Technical production has turned into arts management. Then we have design. We have set and props. And we also have costume. So we would be expecting probably around at uppermost of about 40 or 50 students coming in this weekend. And from that, the list will go down a bit more, of course, for the pōhiri next year. So I don't know why we have everything happen at the same time, because the week after that, we've got graduation. And so it's silly. And all the teachers are complaining, but I you know, they're deaf. I'm deaf to them now.
Oh, of course you are. So, hey, I was just having a look around on the website and I see one of our old friends is now on the board, Helen.
Helen Pierce or Tanea, right? What
absolutely.
I'm gonna say, that's right. This is also a little message for our rangatahi. Just not divide and conquer, but world domination, dear. So slowly but surely, they get the auntie in as the tumuaki, they get the uncle in next door as the teacher, you know, HOD. Then they bring another one in to do the board member. And honestly, she's she's a doctor now, right?
Oh,
doctor. No, she just passed her. She did that earlier this year. So she's a doctor of psychology.
Wow.
And she looks at Māori trauma, and she works in that field. So what drama can do to heal, you know, as a rongoa. She was koi in those days, babe, but she's like tino now.
Oh, awesome. That's good to hear. It's really, really amazing, and sort of actually there's a bit of pride to see the students I had now leaving the school and running the school, and you know, that's just so dang cool, and I'm so proud of you all.
You are too, my friend. There was something about that time, and I think it's a much harder generally for students now as you leave, you know. But there was something about the time. Theatre and the sector was very vibrant, and especially for Māori work. You know, this is, I mean, Hone says he's been around forever. Hone Kauta Meow. And Briar, you know, they had just really started to come into their own as we were coming through school. And of course, it was nothing for all of us. There was always plenty of mahi to do.
Yeah.
I think that the same exists now, but it's slightly different, you know, and it's harder for our students coming out. And for me, I go, in those days, we always, but you know, we were that hardworking generation where you always got a job, because who could afford for us? None of us could afford to be out of work.
That's right.
So if we weren't offered work, we would create our own mahi, you know? And I think it's harder now for our younger ones coming out. So I'm all about making a plan, because otherwise without a plan, it's just a dream, right? Or it's just kōrero.
Yeah.
So you've got to to make the dream happen, you've got to have a plan, you've got to follow your plan.
Cool.
Oh.
You sound like the true teacher. Hey, so what's happening in Māori theatre at the moment?
Well, you know, I only do that because I go, oh gosh, yes, that's right. We still have that responsibility because of well, in terms of what I know happening, and I can hear Nancy screaming at me now. She goes, tell them. So next year, for instance, this year we had a whole lot of things, and I say we because Harpipe Productions, which was Nancy and I, were putting on Mitch's work at Pakaru, which was going to be at the International Festival here in Wellington, and then go up to the Auckland Festival, and then their jolly COVID came through, and then that was the end of that. However, for next year, we're taking Witi's Wahine. And of all the companies, because back in the day they would never have had a bar of us, but we're now working with the Auckland Theatre Company, and I know it's we've been around the world long enough to see the irony of it all, and that they're producing the work, and also he's hoping that will actually sort of start us back on tour again. But Māori theatre, I think, is in a great space again. But we ebb and flow, as with all things. There is, but I look at all of those companies around Bay, Pone with his tawata, and he has his festival, and then there's Te Pau up. Honestly, inundated.
Good. That's a really gratifying, really.
Yeah, there's
really, That makes me happy to hear that. That's
right. All we need is the funding from Creative New Zealand, but apparently, thankfully, that's not going to Shakespeare. But that's fighting talk. That's fighting talk.
Fair enough. Good. Hey, look, I really hate to, but sort of got to cut it off here. And I just
do.
Really
I thought
want
you've
to
been
say
very patient thus far, my mates.
Just running out of time, really. But hey, look, thank you. I really, really appreciate being able to talk to you today. It's good to catch up again. Next time I'm in Wellington, I'm coming in for a visit and a coffee.
That's right. And we're going to go and have a steak.
Sounds
at the very
good.
most, at the very least. All right, my mate.
All right.
Oh,
thank you, my friend.
You just pulled my kuaki.
Yeah.
Thank you,
almost don't want to let it stop, but we will. Okay. And we'll see you again. Thank you.
Okay. Ka kite, darling. Hooray.